You're listening to Grindhouse Courthouse. We put movies on trial to determine whether or not a film has committed too many movie misdemeanors to be considered viewable. Please rise for the honorable judge this episode.
Welcome to Grindhouse Courthouse. The court is in session. Your judge for this week is me, Dylan, Grand Arbiter of all things schlock. Joining me is the sagacious juror, Dave. Say hi to the people, Dave.
Hey.
On this week's docket is The People versus Surviving the Game. This 1994 biopic of Rutger Hauer and Gary Busey's favorite weekend pastime joins Ice-T as he's hunted by a group of psychotic white guys in the woods. Loosely based on the classic 1924 Richard Connell short story, The Most Dangerous Game. Produced for $7.4 million, Surviving the Game grossed $7.7 million at the domestic box office. So not a total flop, but not a success. The movie was critically panned with a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes and 6.2 stars out of 10 on IMDB. A staunch supporter of Blue Lives Matter, Tom will serve as the prosecution, arguing that you can't just make a song called Cop Killer and expect to get away with it. Serving as the defense, Adam will argue that any true fan of The Most Dangerous Game should watch John Leguizamo in The Pest, famously snubbed for Best Picture at the 1997 Oscars for the likes of Titanic and Good Will Hunting. So without further ado, we will begin with the opening statements of the defense. Take it away.
Thank you, Judge. The short story, The Most Dangerous Game, has inspired and spawned many movies, and I am here today to say that Surviving the Game is by far the best adaptation. This movie shows that through perseverance and grit, one can survive any threat, that life is not to be wasted, and that if you stop, you are dead. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, Adam. All right, we'll send it over to the prosecution for a rebuttal and or his opening statement.
Your Honor, Surviving the Game is a turd. And it doesn't matter how you dress it up. It doesn't matter how many times you give it a once-over, how many times you flip it over from a different angle. You are always left with shit. There is nothing good you can say about this movie. None of the characters have any motivation. Things just happen, and then the movie's over. It was edited with a weed whacker. The score sucks. The acting is wooden. The directing is terrible. Ice-T can't lead a film to save his life. I don't know what else you would need to hear about this film to make up your mind. So if we could move straight to deliberation, I think we could save all of us some time here, but I will defer to your expert opinion on the matter.
I think we should actually have a podcast, in my expert opinion. Also, if Ice-T can't lead a movie, how do you explain Leprechaun in the Hood?
How do you explain Leprechaun in the Hood? Leprechaun in the Hood at least has something going for it, which is to say, there's a leprechaun in it. Surviving the Game has a bunch of characters that you don't care about, don't learn anything about, and then they all die. That's the best thing you could say about this film, is that it ends.
I would like to defend the lead of this movie. Ice-T is watchable in this. He's not great, he's watchable, Tom.
Yeah,
is that the baseline for this movie? Watchable?
It's watchable. Yeah, because that's what you want to hear when you're going into a movie. You could sit down and physically view it. That's the stamp of
I agree that he is the weakest.
Right,
I agree that he is the weakest link of this movie, but the rest of the cast is amazing. You can't argue that.
I've never said. They've got F. Murray Abraham. They've got Rutger Hauer. They've got a lot of really good actors in here, and that's a real problem. Is the people that are hunting our main character are more interesting than our main character.
Is it really acting when Gary Busey does actually hunt human beings in real life?
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
He's got just the fucking sickest monologue in this film. It's the closest anyone comes to acting in it, and it's so good.
Okay, I'm gonna give a chance. I'm gonna give a chance for our juror Dave to get a word in. Looks like he was trying to say something.
No, I want to get into the scenes.
Okay.
I got the overall gist of this movie already, I feel like, but...
Okay, hold your horses. Who's the judge here? Who's the judge here? All right, so without further ado, let's get into one of the scenes. So, Tom, Adam, who's going to lead us into the first scene?
Let's both try and piece together what happens in the first scene. A lot of this movie just kind of flows together. There's no individual scene you could talk about because each thing leads into the next. And not in a beautifully crafted kind of way, but sort of a lurching, stumbling, oh my God, we forgot that we were actually making a movie kind of way. So the film opens with, actually, Adam, how does it open?
Yeah, so
great opening.
strong start. Well, we actually didn't. The opening of this movie is not our first case, but I believe you should have some context to understand the setup of our first case that we'll be discussing, which is the dinner scene before the hunt. So the movie does open up with the brutal streets of, I want to say it's Seattle or it's Oregon. I'm not too sure, but you actually get to see the lifestyle of Ice-T being a homeless man, trying to survive, living with his friend, which is a vet, and living with a dog that gets murdered within the first 10 minutes of the movie. So you are seeing the dark side of being homeless in a large city.
And just to clarify, Oregon is a state, not a city. So
sorry, thank you, Joe.
Maybe you're thinking of Portland
now
or something.
Now who's a fucking idiot? Am I right? I rest my case.
But from this, you see that Icy's dog dies early on. It shows that he's actually at the end of his rope. He's willing to give up. He doesn't actually have anything going on for himself. He doesn't want to live anymore. And then once his old vet buddy dies, after, I'm assuming, internal bleeding after a cop beating, Ice-T is about to commit suicide and kill himself, but he's actually saved by Charles S. Dutton, his character. And he brings him. No, that's actually the actor's name is Charles S. Dutton. I think it's Walter.
Yeah,
Walter
characters'
Cole.
names in the movie do not matter.
Yeah, we'll just use actors as per usual.
They never refer to each other by any of their names.
Well, no, you get to learn Ice-T's name many times because it's Mason, and that's all they scream throughout this movie. We actually have Walter Cole, who is played by Charles S. Dutton. He saves him. He's like, listen, if I could give you a job, is that worth you living? And Ice-T's like, I'll take it on. And we find out that Ice-T is going to be the guide for this hunt. So he flies out with this group of people. And before the hunt begins, they have a dinner. So, Tom, do you want to take away the first case?
Yeah, I want to go back and address a number of elements that you left out from your intro.
Hold on. We need a point of clarification from the juror.
Ice-T was hired to lead the hunt?
Yes.
Ice-T is like the dumbest motherfucker alive because he's just this like dirty homeless guy who beats up security guards and like rummages through dumpsters. That's his entire life. That's all that he does day in, day out. Sometimes he breaks into a place to steal a side of beef that he puts on his hobo grill and grills up for his hobo friends, which is an amazing scene.
Which is kind. He is very kind.
So wait, is there any background on Ice-T other than he's homeless? Like, is he like a ex-Marine or something, or he's just some random fucking dude?
He's a guy who didn't fix his house and then got his wife and kids killed. Spoiler alert. That is the extent of internal strife and struggle in this film. It is Ice-T going, man, I really should have fixed that refrigerator, otherwise my wife and kids wouldn't be dead. And,
so what's better, Manchester by the Sea or this movie?
Anything is better than this movie. There is nothing that's not better than this film. The other thing, Adam, that you left out was the lesson of the film, the moral of the story, which is when you find a gun on the ground or in a trash can or whatever, really, you should always check the barrel. And that's something that Ice-T's veteran homeless buddy imparted to him in the first 5 minutes of the film. And it shows up at the end of the film.
That's foreshadowing, Tom.
Is it foreshadowing or is it nothing? Is it nothing at all?
Clearly
is it
foreshadowing.
Just that they didn't know how to end the film, so they had a scene in the beginning where he finds a pistol. I think that might be what's
This
happening.
is also showing how Ice-T's character is actually clever. He's remembering these life lessons that's going to save him later on. So
is that cleverness or is that basic human functionality, like pattern recognition?
You be the judge. I'm not going to say, but
Judge, can we get a ruling on that right now? Thank you in advance.
Well, he told you to be the judge. I mean, kind of insulting considering I am sitting here serving as a judge, but
I know, Your Honor, the disrespect.
Jesus.
We're gonna postpone all rulings until the end, as is standard procedure in most courtrooms. I think we need to. Can you set up the premise at least? I mean, most people know exactly what's about to happen if you've ever gone through grade school in Canada and had to read this fucking story and watch that shitty 1930s movie. But why don't you just get us? You got us to he meets the rich guy, telling him he's going to go on a hunt. But what's actually happening? And then we can get into it. And then we'll have a recess and we'll ask some questions.
They're hunting people. And you, the audience member, have probably realized this by now because nothing in the story that's happening makes any sense. Why would these guys bring a homeless city dweller out into the woods for him to lead the hunt? Like, it's clearly all bullshit. You learn a bit about each individual hunter, which is the most interesting thing about this film, which is kind of the reverse of what you want in this.
Yeah.
It's about your main character and the journey they go through and the things they experience. But in this, really, all you care about is the wacky cast and crew that's going to get slowly killed off by Ice-T. So there's a rich Texan guy. He was on Scrubs. So
John C. McGinley.
Yeah, I knew that would land very well for you, Adam.
Who did he play in Scrubs? Who did he play in Scrubs?
Dr. Cox.
Oh, yeah, with the crazy curly hair.
He's fantastic in this, by the way.
Well, that's the most frustrating thing is like Ice-T is the least charismatic, most boring character in the entire movie. Yeah. Gary Busey is out there just fucking chewing the scenery before he dies immediately. Rutger Hauer is of course Rutger Hauer and can do no wrong in my mind. He's seen things that us people wouldn't believe. There's F.
What's
Murray
he seen?
Abraham.
He's seen on Titan.
F. Murray Abraham is in the film. I feel like I should recognize the guy who played F. Murray Abraham's son, but I don't.
You don't have to. Yeah. That's completely fine. But we'll wrap up this introduction and then go into the dinner scene. But basically, what I want to highlight is the introduction or the intro of this movie is actually showing off the brutality of a hunt because you have a man running through the woods. The team is hunting him, and then you show the brutality of the streets, which Ice-T is living. So you can compare these two.
I would posit that this juxtaposition means nothing. Thank you for your consideration.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify that the things that he saw were attack ships on fire on the shoulder of Orion and C-beams glitter in the dark near Tannhauser Gate, just in case everyone was wondering what he saw. Anyway, moving on.
Thank you, Judge.
We're going to go quickly to a brief recess here where we're going to let Dave, our juror, and myself ask a few questions. So Dave, points of clarification on the story so far, characters, anything unclear at this point? Or is everything unclear?
Everything's a little mixy-matchy, but I kind of got the idea of it. It's pretty.
Do you remember this story from like 8th grade? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I remember watching it.
Did you watch The Pest with John Leguizamo?
I also remember the. No.
Well, you're missing out.
You are.
I was kind of hoping this was going to turn into a Battle Royale movie adaptation, but I feel like it won't.
It doesn't. This movie is boring because immediately after the dinner scene that we're going to talk about, it's just a bunch of shots of people wandering around aimlessly in the woods.
See, and this is where I disagree. I think this is where it picks up. After the dinner scene, the momentum gets going.
All right.
If by gets going, you mean there's a bunch of rough cuts and then some people die, I guess that can count as things going.
All right.
It's not in service of anything.
Judge, I'll throw it back to you if you have any.
Yeah, who's the better game? The Pest or Homeless Ice-T?
Homeless Ice-T does a lot of things in this movie that lead me to believe that he is not skilled, but his opponents are really incompetent. Like, just absolutely stupid and wanted to die. Did they go there to die? And the answer, of course, is yes. But we'll get into that. Don't you worry.
All right. As I look up the best Gary Busey quotes that I can find, why don't we go on to the second scene? Since you did such a great job with the first one, Tom, why don't you introduce the second one here?
I'm going to cut out that intro, so it just
Round
looks
two.
really smooth. And you guys will be, like, shitting on me for no reason. Everyone will go, oh, why are they being so mean to Tom? He's my favorite.
Yeah, that intro was really smooth. That's for sure. Both of us.
This is already all over the place with this. We'll see.
Well, then, Adam, why don't you start the dinner scene?
So Ice-T is flown into this cabin area with all the other hunters, and they settle in for the evening where they're having dinner around the table. So we actually have this taking place in a log cabin. We have the fireplace going on. They're drinking wine, and they're poking at Ice-T to figure out what kind of person he is. and basically what kind of challenge he's going to present, because that's their main interest. They want a challenge while they're going to be hunting someone. And to go back to what Tom said previously, I believe the reason why they're hunting homeless people is because possibly they don't have identity. There's no connection. They find out that he doesn't have any family. He doesn't have any friends. So this was an easy target for them to go after.
Objection. Who cares about any of that?
I'm just saying.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, Judge. So with the scene, I really want to say that it showcases each of these characters just trying to one-up each other. And then we find out that none of these killers are two-dimensional. And that's what I actually really enjoyed about this movie, is that each character is unique on their own. And you get their interesting backstories of why they want to hunt, why they need this, and why they want to continue hunting man. So you get to see the side of, how I want to put this, they all show the savage side of man in different ways. So an example of this is we have John C. McGinley, Dr. Cox. Don't you laugh, Dylan.
No, sorry, I'm reading Gary Busey quotes.
That's why I wanted to put into evidence for this episode, because the quote, the quote is fantastic. This is where I actually was engaged. So I've never seen this movie up until last weekend when I watched it for the first time. So we have, what I think kicked it off for the dinner table was we had Dr. Cox, John C. McGinley's character, just being triggered and set off after he asked Ice-T if he's ever killed anyone. And Ice-T's response was that he actually killed his family, so his wife and his daughter. He doesn't explain it, but John C. McGinley's acting goes from a 4 to a 12. He's screaming. He's going ballistic. He's ready to fight everyone, and they're trying to toss him out of there because they don't want their whole hunt to be ruined at that moment. So,
objection, Your Honor. I see he's taken the Nick Cage school of acting.
Objection, Your Honor. This definitively proves that my opponent is only interested when actors yell and scream. That doesn't mean it's a good film. His acting did not go from a 4 to a 12. He just started yelling and screaming.
It went from a 4 to a 12, Tom. Also, backing up this scene is Gary Busey. He kind of yells, but he did not go full Dr. Cox on this. He did not go up to a 12. Gary's Busey monologue about the manhood of how he got his scar, I think that's worth watching this movie alone. His delivery is spot on. It makes me want to watch more Gary Busey movies just from this.
Well, I mean, it's like he always says, I don't know where I'm from, but I'm here now, so deal with it, Gary Busey.
Well, let me take this next Gary Busey quote from a 4 to a 12. Your worst nightmare, butthorns!
I actually don't have the speech written out. I was going to recite it, but I don't think I can do the same delivery as Gary Busey in this moment. So if you have a chance.
Wait.
We'll wait. We can wait.
Oh, God.
Do you need a recess?
Hold on.
Well, in the meantime, Tom, can you give us some rebuttal to what he's just laid out here?
Credit where credit is due. Like I said earlier, all of the hunters are sort of where the acting meat really lives in this. And although I wouldn't classify it as good or noteworthy, there is something happening in Gary Busey's monologue, which says, this is why Gary Busey was in movies. This is why, we used to listen to him and put him in things. He does a serviceable job. Dr. Cox, when he flies off the handle, does fly off the handle. I mean, it's not like you're laughing at his performance. I'm not going to say that it's Oscar-worthy like my opponent was implying.
I did not say that.
I believe your exact words were 4 to 12,
it was
10 being the best that anyone could possibly ever perform.
But this is what John C. McGinley does well. He goes off and it makes the scene more powerful, adds more tension to it. So how could you not be engaged for this moment?
I did say that I was engaged for that moment, but I'm not going to recommend to all the fine people out there that they sit down and watch 90 minutes of shit to find 1 minute of little gold in there. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't impact the story in any major way. It's all just window dressing on the bloated corpse that is surviving the game, because there's nothing there. All of these monologues don't mean anything, because immediately after this, when he wakes up and they say, we're gonna get you, and then he has to take off into the woods because they're finally hunting him, he immediately circles back to the cabin, gets into a fist fight with Gary Busey, throws him inside a burning house, and that's the end of his character. He's gone. He's out of the film. You never see him again.
Yeah. So and if you did any research, into this movie, the screenwriters actually, when they wrote out that character, they didn't have Gary Busey in mind, but when he read that dialogue, they're just like, he's perfect. And they wish they could do a rewrite to actually keep him in longer. They were actually all upset that he died, or he was the first character to die.
Tom, how do you respond? Did you do any research?
I did exactly as much research as is required. I watched the film. I don't give a shit what they thought they could have done before or after when they watched their turn of a film and said, "Oh fuck, we should have had Gary Busey in it, man."
Okay,
that's
so
on them. I do not give a shit.
I also want to speak.
Fixed.
I also want to speak to the part where you said Ice-T circles back to the cabin, and Gary Busey get into the fight. So you mentioned that Ice-T's character is dumb, clueless, whatever you said at the very beginning, he's worthless. It was fairly clever of him to go back to the cabin because they even stated, the hunters state this, that nobody's ever done this. When he goes back to the cabin, he's filling it with gasoline and he burns it down while fighting Gary Busey.
I take it back. You've convinced me. Let me take my spots from a 4 to a 12. This is the greatest movie because he doubled back. It doesn't mean anything.
I'm just giving the character credit.
Sorry, what are we giving credit to? A thing that happened in the film?
No, you stated that Ice-T's character is worthless, clueless, da-da-da-da, but we're actually seeing moments in this movie where he is using proper skill, he's thinking outside the box to survive. This is good enough for this type of movie. And I agree, the story is very simple with this, but
well... Speaking of simple, are we led to believe that Ice-T is great just because the hunters tell us that no one's ever gone back? Maybe they've been hunting dumb shits the entire time. What would you do in this situation, Adam? Would you just keep sprinting into the forest, or would you go back to where there's supplies?
I have
pretty basic stuff.
I have very poor survival skills, so I have no idea what I would do in this situation.
I think you should answer the question, what would you do if you were hunted?
Are we in the same situation? Like, are we in the woods and I'm being chased down by rich...
Yes, you're a homeless man who's killed his family. What do you do?
And there's a Wall Street jack off and his son chasing you, and whatever Rutger Hauer is, he's like a doctor, I guess, or something.
Yeah. And there's a crazed Gary Busey running behind you saying, "Drinking your own blood is the paradigm of recycling." I'm literally just one thing he loves doing is he what's it called when you take the letters of a word and like an acrostic where you take the letters of the word and spell out something. A lot of his quotes are those. So he's really good at it. Like, for example, relationship means this. Really exciting love affair turns into overwhelming nightmare. Sobriety hangs in peril.
Wow.
And he just spit that off the top of his head. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that was guaranteed no.
So Adam, what do you do when that man is chasing after you in the woods? I'm guessing with a composite bow.
Yeah, they had a variety of weapons in this one. They had bows, they had shotguns, they had semi-automatic, I also believe.
For some reason, Rutger Hauer had a Steyr AUG just hanging out in the middle of all the hunting equipment. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
They also had armor-plated ATVs at one point, too. Yeah, what would I do? Probably run into the deepest bush possible to make sure that I wasn't seen. Potentially, find a ditch, get on the low ground, wait until the evening and try and find, a river, and then follow that, basically. I believe that would be my strategy.
Now, all of those things sound really smart. You know what you didn't say at any point of that? Was I'm just going to run back there and just take my time and put gasoline all over the floor and then stick around, get into a fist fight with one of them. He's got a knife and a gun, but I'm from the streets, ? So I can handle it. None of that is really set up or established or followed up on. And then just kind of jog back into the woods in the opposite direction. None of those are things that you said, but you still feel that this is reasonable for his character to do.
I think so for his character. Because you're taking away their shelter, you're taking away their resources. I thought that was well played on his part. Because again, he could have just continued on in the woods and probably not survived, but he was when he went back to the cabin, he was trying to find a weapon. I think that was the first thing that he pointed out when he hit the cabin, where he's just where's a gun? Where's a gun? And then he breaks into a room where you find heads in jars, and we find that there's one empty with his name on it. So that's when he becomes enraged and he decides to take the gasoline and burn the place down.
And Tom, to
that
flip the
makes
question, Tom, how would you successfully kill a man that you're hunting?
Well, see, I have seen First Blood many times, and what you do there is you get a knife. You've always got to have a knife with you. You run in there, you start carving up little sticks, you hide in trees, you drop down on people, you throw rocks at them, you do whatever it takes. One thing that you don't do is get into a fist fight with him. And then also just like when he throws Gary Busey into the burning house, he doesn't take the knife on the ground that he had with him. He just like leaves it there.
I actually have a quote from that because this is where it gets into the schlockiness that everybody loves from action movies. So when they're fighting back and forth, you can tell that Ice-T is not the strongest of characters and Gary Busey is kind of having his way. But then the tables do turn and we have Gary Busey like toss him into a door and the house is on fire. So Ice-T gets like singed. Gary Busey says, "I like my meat rare." And then Ice-T punches him into the dick or punches his dick and then tosses him back into the house. And Ice-T follows up with, "Try well done, bitch." And then the house explodes. So that was beautiful.
Wait, hang on. Wait.
Beautiful or ugly?
I like my meat rare.
Yeah.
Okay, so they eat these people.
That's never stated, actually.
I mean, that's
heavily implied.
Specifically
that like Gary Busey's character would probably eat people. But you don't get the sense that Dr. Cox or F. Murray Abraham or like Rutger Hauer do that. It's more just about the hunt. Gary Busey's character is just a fucking psycho, and they get him out of the movie as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, he did once say, "My dark side, my shadow, my lower companion is now in the back room blowing up balloons for kid parties." So we know we are dealing with an unhinged individual here. Okay, so why don't we take a quick recess? We'll swing it over to Dave, the juror. Dave, do you need some points of clarification?
Yeah, did they just shove Ice-T out the door and say like run?
Yes.
So
Pretty much they're like, "We're gonna have a nice breakfast, but you get your ass to running."
So
and he does.
There's a bit more to that. They're holding a gun right to his face and they wake him up and they start shouting at him to get his adrenaline going. They're basically saying like, "We're going to hunt you. We're going to hunt you."
The gun isn't enough. You have to shout at someone to get their adrenaline.
And then they kick him out of
point a gun at their face.
And then they kick him out of the house and they're just like, "The hunt doesn't start. We're going to take our time. We're going to give him a chance so it's actually a challenge." So they have breakfast and then they go after Ice-T.
Okay. So it gets a little head start, I guess.
There's some sportsmanship with it, I guess.
How sporting is it really if they have fucking ATVs though?
Yeah,
Like-
no, I completely agree. I kind of wish that element was taken away, but and it was more of them just relying on their skills and their wit to hunt Ice-T throughout this movie. But it was a lot of them actually just chasing him down with these ATVs, and then once they see him, they jump off and start shooting.
Yeah, and that's really where the Pest
Pest
separates itself as a piece of superior cinema. Because the most dangerous game is only the most dangerous if you keep the playing field more or less fair. But if you just make it super unfair, then it's not really that dangerous, is it? Because you have such a vast superiority in armament.
Yeah. So, and that's what you see with this movie is Ice-T starts taking them down one by one. So it is balancing the grounds, and he is standing on his own, whether that be through his skill, his cleverness, whatever you want to call it. But
bad screenwriting. I think that's what I'd like to call it.
Also, are they on an island?
No,
by
they're
any
in the-
chance? Are they surrounded by water?
They're in the woods.
No.
They're in Oregon
So
specifically.
he could straight up.
The city of Oregon?
Okay.
Yeah, the city. Yeah, the
I got
great city.
confused. Yes, they're in Oregon.
Okay, well, that probably does it for the recess here. So we're going to move on to, do we have a third scene? I hope so, because I feel like we're still in, like, the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Wasn't that the first
No,
scene?
the first 15 minutes is much worse because there's an entire scene like where he has his hobo barbecue.
Well, you think that intro.
Yeah, like
that you're
there's
talking
a
about.
bunch of stuff that happens. Specifically, the old guy says always check the barrel of a gun because that's a really important life lesson. And then he's running through the woods and he slowly kills all of them, or they kill each other.
Don't
They turn on each
gloss over that, Tom. Each death.
Okay, yeah, I'll give it all the attention.
Hang on. We're
that
getting
deserves.
very muddled. So we had the opening scene. We set up the character of Ice-T, homeless man, gets recruited. We have the dinner scene explaining you are the game. Next scene, Where are we going?
Well, he's told with a gun in his face, but that doesn't phase him until they start yelling at him, and then his feelings get hurt and his adrenaline goes up.
That's not.
And then he has to run around the woods, and they're eating breakfast, and then he doubles back. Gary Busey gets beaten up and killed.
Yep.
Then there's some more chasing. Then he somehow lures Dr. Cox away from the group and captures him.
Yes.
But you see all of that not at all because they leave it off camera.
No.
Because that'd be
No, they
too
don't.
interesting.
They show it all.
him. They don't, not the version that I watched.
You're only highlighting things that you want to.
Did you guys watch different movies?
Tom is only showing or like talking about what he wants to. So
I don't know. This sounds a lot like The Pest.
I kind of wish we watched The Pest now. Maybe that's for another week. So Ice-T, after he runs away, like he kills Gary Busey and he's running into the woods, everyone regroups, all the hunters regroup, and they start chasing him again. So he has another lead on him. He takes out his cigarettes because he was given that during the dinner scene. And what he does is he lights up a couple cigarettes and puts them onto a tree. So you have smoke coming off of it. This lures the hunters over, but what happens is John C. McGinley's character goes to the side because he's not going to follow the rest of them. He wants the kill for himself. He goes off to the side and he's away from the pack. This is where Ice-T jumps off of a large boulder onto him, knocks him out, and then takes him into a cave. You see everything.
That was not in the version that I saw.
Are you serious?
Straight up, it's just him walking away from the group, and then like 5 minutes later, it cuts to them in the cave.
Are you serious?
So
Are there two versions out
Are we
there?
dealing with like Adam watched an extended cut and Tom watched the director's exclusive cut remastered?
I watched the theatrical release. I didn't realize that Adam had access to the unrated extended edition.
Tom, were there tauntauns walking in the background of several scenes?
Yeah, there's like CG shit just being shoved in the frame. It was unreal.
But seriously,
No,
yours did not have
so
that?
it happened. In some versions of the film, you don't get to see that happen. And some versions you do, I guess.
Did you just like have like a... Did you just blank?
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling like. You're saying there's multiple versions.
The movie is so bad you blacked out?
Unlike my esteemed opponent, I actually watch films that I'm assigned to watch.
Tom, I clearly watch this, and I'm remembering a lot more than you right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you can remember all the things you want, but that doesn't change the fact that this is still a shitty movie.
And just for clarification to the audience, Adam was assigned to watch Nightbreed, and he gave up and unilaterally decided that we were going to watch this movie. No consultation with the judge.
Tom proposed this movie in the channel. There was a trailer for it. It looked exciting. I was game.
So you already made up your mind before even watching the film. And now you're taking me to task on
You
things that are
presented
completely
it.
outside
You
my
presented
control.
it. It was
hey,
an option.
This scene was completely missing from the cut that I saw. Not that it even makes the film better.
Judge,
it's just a little bit of interstitial juice.
Judge, can we
tie
take
it all?
Can we take a short recess to determine?
Move forward here? Can we move forward? Yeah.
I want to know if
All
there's
right.
actually two versions of this movie, because my opponent keeps saying there's a different version. If we watch two different movies, then that's just going to, like, this court is done. It's skewed.
Oh, well then, yeah, let's
The
jump.
human race is over.
Let's jump right to closing statements. All right, this movie's a piece of shit. It doesn't matter what scenes are included or not included. You can't polish a turd. Thank you. Brought it full circle.
All right. Point of clarification. It doesn't matter if there are two versions of this movie. You're still going to hash this whole thing out together. One of you will be at a disadvantage and the other can just make shit up. That's how this court works. So, we're going to assume you watched the same movie and Tom went to take a piss at one point and missed something. Even if that's not true, I don't really care. So we're at this point we still are with the first kill, right? So however it happened, Dr. Cox gets dragged into the cave and who knows what happens in there.
So we can go over that. That's actually one of the cases that I wanted to
okay,
discuss.
so why don't we go to that? Unless, hang on, Dave, do you have some points of clarification? Because I'm fucking lost at this point, but...
I have so many questions, I just don't even know where to begin. Let's just get to a scene.
No more setup. Describe a scene. Get us to a scene.
So with this scene, this is the cave exchange where we have Ice-T. He's just captured John C. McGinley's character, and at this point he's tied up and they're in a cave. So this scene actually takes a pause on the action that's just been happening. So we can actually dive deeper into Ice-T's character to learn about how he lost his family, why he's homeless, and then we get beautiful exchanges between him and John C. McGinley to understand why Dr. Cox went off at the very beginning, because he lost his family, or I believe it's just his daughter, to a homeless man. So this whole hunt for him was about revenge. That's what his motive was. They go through the night, basically doing this exchange back and forth. And in the morning, we find out that Ice-T lets him go. He's not going to kill them. And John C. McGinley, the other hunters come in, they take him away, and those hunters turn on John C. McGinley. So you're getting multiple sides. So you're getting more in depth with these characters. You're seeing their motives and basically the reason of why they're doing these hunts. And then you're also getting the savage side of the hunt, where even your own teammates, even your own friends now have turned against you because they need to continue this for themselves. I also want to note that one thing that surprised me about this movie is the styling for it too. Basically with an action movie like this, where it's just in the woods, yes, you would expect really quick edits, but the styling for the evening scenes, they hit it up with a lot more blue. So the cave scene, there's more blue coming in, and even in the wood scenes, they tone it down so there's a lot of brown. So you can actually see that like the director wanted to put an effort into this movie. It wasn't just a quick one-off, let's try and make money because we have this huge cast. No, there's actually like them trying to make a decent movie out of this, and you can see it with this cave scene, with the colors of it. But then even when they're doing the first hunt where Ice-T was in the cabin and he's fighting Gary Busey, you see it with the camera too. The camera is almost a character itself, where it's very kinetic and it's whipping around the room with you. So that's, I feel, very classic 90s action stuff, but bringing it back, there was some type of direction for this movie, and you're seeing it with these scenes.
And who's the leader? Is it Gary Busey or Rutger Hauer?
Rutger Hauer.
Okay. And what's Gary Busey? Because he seems important in the group.
He's a CIA psychiatrist.
Yeah.
They specifically go out of their way to tell you that, like, yeah, he's from the CIA and he's a head doctor. Okay. That's it. Then he dies. Just like how, you learn this bit about Dr. Cox's character, and then he dies. He's removed from the film. Every time you learn something interesting about a character, they have to leave the movie. I don't know if that makes it a good film. I don't think so. It's really tough to get attached to characters when they're suddenly just gone from the film. Similarly, I don't think that coloring things brown or blue makes it a good movie either. But apparently my opponent is very easy to impress, so do with that information what you will.
Going back
Adam,
to
response.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, you're getting more in depth of these characters. You're actually caring about the hunters now. I see that as a plus, Tom.
Really?
Where once they're taken
cared
away,
about the hunters?
Yeah, because they all actually had interesting backgrounds once you learn about it. So again, with Gary Busey scene of talking about his birthmark and why it's labeled as his manhood, and then with John C. McGinley talking about his losing his daughter to a homeless man, their relationship, Ice-T and Dr. Cox's relationship for that scene.
Can you clarify what you mean by losing his daughter to a homeless man? Like, did the homeless man take her? Like, what happened?
I believe a homeless man killed his daughter.
Allegedly.
So would you say that Dr. Cox was going for tolerant revenge in this point in the
yes. It is definitely tolerant revenge. The most pure form of revenge there is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's just showing that like you're getting more in depth with these characters, so that when they are taken away, when they are killed, there's more weight behind it. And you're seeing the savage side, the brutality of these hunters. So there's more weight behind it. So I don't think that should be glossed over lightly. You keep using
the word weight. How much more weight is being put behind their deaths?
But before we get into that definition, hang on. Before we get into the definition of weight, I want to explain to our viewers that tolerant revenge is killing the intolerant, so that quotation makes sense to them. Anyway, go on. What does weight mean, Adam?
Your Honor, I declare victory for
I think Adam is left speechless.
No, I'm trying to.
Or are you trying to Merriam-Webster this right now, Adam? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, my hands.
It's a standard follow-up question, Adam.
My hands are the keys.
What is love? What is weight?
Yeah.
The dictionary defines weight as the gravitational pull of the Earth.
No, I'm trying to find the right words for it. Just how I'm trying to describe it, because it was more with this scene. It was more of a feeling. There was what I'm trying to describe is the weight of the scene was how much feeling you had for the characters. So you grew an attachment with them, and then what they were taken away, there was a sense like you felt that once they were gone, there was a big loss with it. It didn't feel cheated.
Okay, well, I think that makes sense that Adam sympathizes with the Manhunters. So Adam sees
that's
them.
That's what I'm hearing.
Adam sees them as the good guys. So he sees the murder of the homeless as okay. So we're going to move on
I'm not comfortable with that one.
I'm
That's
not
what
putting
your
words
arguments are leading towards.
This is oh god. No, that's not where my arguments are. I'm defending this movie. I'm finding it interesting that you can get
a homeless man is being hunted and killed. We know. We've covered this already.
And the hunters are okay guys.
They could have done this movie 100 different ways, but the fact that they wanted to focus on the hunters and what was driving them, and again their motives, and then the fact their relationships with Ice-T, I think that was a great approach, because again, they could have just been 2D characters that were just, I'm just gonna kill him, and that's it. There was a lot more thought out to this. That's what I'm defending at this moment. I do not defend them killing homeless people.
Look, Your Honor,
I'm defending
my opponent
characters.
loves it when the homeless get killed, and I think we know that. But I'd like to move past that and just focus on the film. And one of the things that I'd like to capture about...
and just to clarify, can we keep personal opinions and vendettas out of this? We're trying to review a film here.
Your Honor, nothing would bring me greater joy. Anyways, Adam is a big stupid doo-doo head for the following reasons. Reason number one.
Go on.
The important...
You can't pause on this, Tom. I want to hear it.
He enjoys killing the homeless. He thinks that homeless people are naturally crafty, even despite not having any background or displaying any sort of skills. He thinks that Gary Busey talking about how he had to kill a dog that he loved is like a good thing. I don't know. There's plenty of reasons. The one thing that I would like to point out, though, is that these characters are really two-dimensional. There's really nothing to them outside of they will give a monologue, then they will leave the film. Characters that never give monologues also die, but you don't really care about them either. The movie tries to play it up like it's coming down to this big confrontation between Ice-T and Rutger Hauer, but that confrontation in and of itself is pretty stupid and doesn't mean anything. If it would please the court,
you know what?
I'd like to move on to my
we've been
final
doing
scene.
this for 50 minutes. Why don't we go ahead and go to that scene?
So the movie trundles along. All the other hunters are killed. It doesn't really matter anything that you learn about them because they're dead. They don't impart any wisdom on our main character. He doesn't learn anything.
Point of
He just kills
clarification.
them.
Point of clarification. How is Gary Busey killed in the end?
He's thrown inside a burning building and then just takes a nap in the flames.
The house explodes. So Gary Busey dies
He was
that
well
way.
done,
John C.
apparently.
McGinley dies from getting shot in the head by the other hunters. Charles S. Dutton, who's Walter Cole. Ice-T kills him by putting the ignition switch into the gas tank of one of the ATVs. So when Ice-T starts running away, they jump onto the ATVs. And Charles Dutton's character gets blasted and loses his legs. But that's a great scene, though, too, right? Because his character's death, he's lost his legs, he's got burns all the way up his front half, and he's just muttering.
You're right.
And
Fucking awesome scene. That dude is jacked up. Great scene. Good film. Okay,
no, but
moving on.
But you see something like that, you would see something like that in Saving Private Ryan, where they're just in shock and they're just muttering and they don't know what's going on. So I'm just saying kudos to this film for taking its time to do unique kills for all of these characters because they were unique themselves. So
Okay,
Tom,
Yeah, I mean,
what
it
about
sounds- it
Charles
sounds
Dutton's character
beautiful.
required him to have his legs blown off and then lie on the ground going gee, I wish I wasn't all jacked up. Because I don't know if that's good cinema. I also don't think that you can use the argument of I saw this in a better movie as proof that this movie is good, but I leave
But
that one up to
Lieutenant
the
Dan, you
jury.
ain't got no legs.
Lieutenant Dan. So anyways, all of those things happen. All of these characters are kicked out of the film. And you think, okay, Ice-T's just about to get Rutger Hauer before Rutger Hauer escapes on a plane. And my opponent's going to go, wait, it was so unique and interesting, but it doesn't matter. He got away. That's really what sets up this next scene. And now we're back in the city, which I guess they thought would be, it's like Ice-T's home turf. So now he's this badass super hunter who like stalks him through alleyways and whatever else. Gets into a fist fight with him, gets the gun away from him, and basically says, no, game's over. I'm done. I don't want to fight anymore. You can go home, Rutger Hauer. And fucks with the gun a little bit, like puts something in the barrel and drops the gun. Rutger Hauer says, oh, lucky me, goes and picks up the gun, but doesn't check the barrel, just like his veteran friend said at the beginning of the movie. Then it blows up in his face, and the movie's over. That's it. Roll the credits. There's no lesson. There's no like deeper meaning. There's no theme. It's not Ice-T reclaiming his life and proving that he's not a homeless piece of trash.
It is,
It's
though.
not him learning that. No, it isn't.
Think of where Ice-T started at the beginning of the movie. He was zero. He's ready to kill himself. And now he survived this great incident, this great
and now
hunt.
he kills other people. Amazing character development.
He's a survivor. He's a survivor,
So going back to the beginning, so his buddy told him to always check the barrel, and then in the end, the other guy did not check the barrel, and that's what did him in.
That's correct.
So it's kind of like poetry, like a rhyme.
It wraps around nicely, like it's a good closed loop. Everything ties together from the beginning to the end. You see a progression with Ice-T's
It rhymes. It rhymes.
It rhymes. Sorry. Yeah,
Who the
it is
fuck has
poetry.
time to check the barrel when he's in that situation? though?
All the pacing
Who the fuck
in
would
all
do
the
that?
fights, all the choreography sucks. All of the like spacing they do in the world is terrible. So he has like hours to check the barrel of the gun. He just literally chooses not to. It's the most awkward, most boring shit ever. And Adam, to your earlier point of he's a survivor, no, he isn't. Because he survived the game, he got out, and then he actively chose to hunt down Rutger Hauer. In a better film, this would have been, oh my god, he's gone full circle and become the thing that he hates, right? But it isn't that movie. It's just a bunch of tolerant revenge on both sides, and then it ends? Question mark. And it's just over.
See, and this is where, like, I will agree with you. I think that's the weakest part of the movie is how this ends. I kind of wish Ice-T was still in the woods. Like, that was it. It cut with you seeing that Ice-T survived, and what's he going to do next? It's left open. I don't think they needed to go back into the city and have Ice-T battle Burns' character. So I agree with you.
I completely agree.
I think the ending of him going back to the city is the weakest part.
I would also argue that the middle and the beginning are the weakest points of the film as well. But I think we know how I feel about this movie.
I think we know.
And that's it. That's literally how the movie ends.
Okay.
That's the only through line in the entire film is check the barrel of a gun.
Okay. We need to take a pause. Collectively,
Your Honor,
Tom, you've said some hateful things. And Adam, you have revealed some disgusting opinions in the course of this trial. So, I'm going to ask the juror, Dave. Dave, do you have any questions before we go into closing statements?
I have one question. Is everyone that Ice-T meets in this film basically die? Like, everyone he interacts with is dead?
yes.
No.
Is anyone alive that he has, like, made contact? Because, like, his buddy, Vietnam buddy is dead. All the hunters are dead.
The
Family's dead.
guard that he...
He doesn't kill him. He threatens him. And that's about it.
He
Because
makes him fear for his life. He does pull a gun on him. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird relationship.
There is weird because like Ice-T is almost like a pacifist in this film. Like he doesn't want to hurt anybody until the very end.
Everyone.
But for the most part,
yeah,
it's a bit off. But for the most part, yes, everybody that Ice-T interacts with dies, except for there's a hotel scene where he checks in. So those guys live, I guess.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. There's a few people who escape Ice-T's aura of death, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what I was
I
thinking.
think it's pretty obvious that Ice-T is the angel of death, and this movie is an allegory about how we pass through life and we contact each other, and how death is inevitable.
Also, I'm kind of upset. I just looked up a picture of Ice-T in this movie. And
Oh my god, his dreadlocks. Yeah, how the fuck did you guys not mention his dreadlocks?
I've been trying to avoid talk.
So I'm a little sad about that. That was amazing. That's like the first thing I saw, and I was blown away. That alone makes me want to watch the movie. Just
My opponent is a fierce racist and would not bring it up. But I didn't bring it up because it has no bearing on anything.
It doesn't.
It doesn't
really
matter
doesn't.
if his hair is
But
clean cut or dreadlocks.
but speaking to that,
it's
though,
still a bad film.
But speaking to that though, with like the styling of the film, you actually do see like the grit and like the dirtiness of it. You see, like, yes, he is homeless, but throughout this movie, everybody does get dirtier. They are wearing down. It's not like nobody's just excelling. No one's at the top of their game. You see them breaking down throughout this movie, which I actually appreciated. So with Ice-T, he cuts his dreads at one point, but he becomes dirtier and dirtier because he's using different tactics to escape these people. So
Yeah, like rolling around in dirt or whatever.
yeah.
Okay, so
physically gained her.
without further ado, let's move on to closing statements. Tom, you begin. Adam, you begin.
No, I'm gonna let Tom start on this one.
Tom, you can't use the word turd in your
I need to
closing,
think of how to put
statement.
the pest into my
Challenge
closing
for you.
statements now.
Very rarely does a movie come along. Actually, I think I lead almost all my closing statements that way.
Seldom
game
in the course of human history.
Surviving the Game is a movie that dares you to give less of a shit. The premise is interesting, but all of the parts that make up this film, the acting, the directing, the score, the cinematography, the basic plot, the fight choreography, the blocking, the editing, all of it comes together to make a movie that's somehow shittier than each individual part, and some of those parts are very shitty. You might be entertained for brief moments. You could go onto YouTube and just watch the Gary Busey monologue and be done with the entire film. You don't need to watch any of it. It will not enrich your life. It will not entertain you. It will leave you feeling emptier than when you started. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
So, should they just watch The Pest?
Oh, yeah. Anything is better than surviving the game.
Okay.
Watch The Running Man.
All right, Adam, your closing statements, please.
I'm going to keep it simple. If you're a fan of 80s, 90s schlock action, then this movie will be a great time for you. It holds up for repeated viewings. All the kills or deaths in this movie felt unique. Nothing was repetitive in the sense. The characters had depth that you wanted to learn about. And yeah, I think this was actually a good adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game. So if you're looking for something along those lines, then this will work perfectly for it.
Okay, so we are going to send it over to Dave. Dave's going to give us his thoughts on proceedings and then ultimately his verdict of whether he will watch this movie or not.
Today's court was a little hateful at times, I felt like, but this movie, it looks like it's the cast is pretty stellar. It looks like it has some pretty like cheesy action. From what you're kind of describing, my interest is piqued. I might take a little watch
Think
of this
carefully
movie, I think.
about what you're
Okay.
doing.
Hey, all verdicts are final in the.
I know. I do like the premise of like the dangerous game and stuff. So yeah, I think I'll watch a
Okay, so
cheesy action movie.
we have
I'll watch it.
We have a positive verdict from the juror here. I, however, will watch The Pest and then just respond like I watched this movie next week. Because I know that's way funnier.
Perfect.
Because John Leguizamo is hilarious. So I won't watch this movie, but I'll watch this movie's cousin.
Fair enough.
As long as you don't watch Surviving the Game, that's all I care about. Thank you,
Right.
Your Honor.
Right. And since last week, nobody wanted to watch Bloodsport, Donald Trump's favorite movie, we will not have our... What the fuck is the name of that?
The court.
The court of public
is it, Adam?
opinion. The court of the public opinion.
Hold on,
So we will not have a court of the public opinion, but we will next week. So court is adjourned. Court is adjourned for God's sake. We'll catch you next time on Grindhouse Courthouse. Cue the extra music.
And with that, the court is adjourned. Come back next time for a new trial with new litigants in the never-ending parade of schlock that is Grindhouse Courthouse. Motherfuckers.